Welcome back to News Hub this morning. Thank you so much for joining us in the past conversation. I'm bringing you back to another set of conversations right now, but we're looking at the agricultural sector. Nigeria as a nation has been buoyant, has been sufficient, has been doing well with agriculture before the advent of crude oil in Nigeria, and which started exploitation and exploration in the now biosciences delivery in 1956. What happened to that agricultural sector? Why are we neglecting that agricultural sector even when we know that insufficiency has crept in into the oil use? So this morning, we'll be taking a critical look at the agricultural sector and, of course, focusing on the state of emergency on the nation. Joining us will be Daniel Udeme Joseph. Daniel Udeme Joseph is a practicing farmer and a project management professional. Daniel Udeme Joseph, good morning. Welcome to News Hub this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Daniel Udeme Joseph. I want to ask you this simple question, first of all. How did we miss it on agriculture? How did we get here that no one government looks at agriculture as a means of diversification or as a means of sustenance to Nigeria, knowing fully well that this was our bane of sustenance back before oil came in? How did we get here, first of all, please?
Okay, it's a very simple answer to this. We got used to easy money. Oil afforded us easy money, and it was convenient at the time to ignore pragmatism, to ignore hard work at the lure and the promises of easy money. But I think we are now face to face with stark reality. There is really no easy thing. We've got to get back to work, and agriculture, thank God, hasn't left. It's been there from history, still there till now. So we've got to get back to work, to get back to where we were.
Challenges faced by farmers today. That's talking about the practicing farmers and the would-be farmers. What are the challenges faced today?
Sorry, I can hardly hear you.
I said, what are the challenges faced by farmers in Nigeria?
Okay, so there are several challenges. First and foremost, and the clearest of it, is insecurity. I mean, we could spend another 1 hour, 2 hours talking about insecurity, but I'm going to leave that for the professionals, because I know that everybody already knows that the major reason why we are not in the farms is insecurity. But the other issues I would really love to address, which boils down to my own experience on the farm, is I think government needs to invest more in the issues that are higher up on the EOP. So on the EOP, what we call EOP is the economics of production. So every farmer goes to the farm with a budget. The things that are higher up on the EOP, including irrigation and land clearing, are the major things I believe government should focus on in intervention. I understand that a lot has been done to provide fertilizers and grains and all of those kinds of things, and those are very good. But I believe that when you look at the entire value chain of production, the most expensive things are the things the local farmers cannot afford. So let's put it in perspective. Nigeria agricultural sector is driven by 70% smallholder farmers. And when you talk about smallholder farmers, these are people that can hardly afford $2 per day. And so because they don't have that much money, and the bulk of our agricultural productivity is dependent on them, if there is going to be an effective intervention, it has to be with the smallholder farmers. And so that's why I said we need to spend more and we need to invest more in very expensive, so to speak, items on the EOP. So let me give you another instance. I talked about land clearing. Land clearing is about 300,000 per hectare. No farmer will want to invest 300,000 in clearing 1 hectare. So I believe that if government was to focus on, and that's something that has been captured in the address of the state of emergency for agriculture, and I think it's a really brilliant idea. The other thing is irrigation. Irrigation is also really expensive, and I also see that had been addressed in the state of emergency, where there is supposed to be a collaboration between the Ministry of Agric and the Ministry of Water Resources. Irrigation is expensive, and so and the irrigation case is interesting because it's just common sense that if we have dual planting within the year, we have both rainy and dry season, productivity just doubles. That's common sense. And so a lot of the cultivation, about 86% is rain-fed, so we have 86% of our cultivation being rain-fed. So for dry season, we're having barely 18 to maybe 20%. Giving us or giving farmers irrigation simply just means that we are going to push that percentage upward, and it will increase our total productivity. The other thing I would like to talk about is technology and funding. So I'll do technology first. And when we talk about technology, because again, my focus or my concern has always been what we are doing for the smallholder farmers. When we talk about technology, there is a chasm between technology and smallholder farmers, and that bridge is supposed to be with the extension.
That line that you're towing is just the best for anyone who's watching at this point in time to really hear regards to how technology can be really harnessed in ensuring food security within the agricultural sector in the country. It's also very nice to touched on the very critical areas that the president had promised that he would intervene to see that the agricultural sector really rises up to the occasion, not even because of what is going on at this point in time alone, but because we've been facing challenges with regards to food security in the last couple of years, so to speak. And the issue of fuel subsidy removal has even made it even worse for a lot of households and stakeholders, just as Daniel. We'll try to reconnect base with Daniel in just a moment. We're still taking a look at the food security in the country, how the government's pronouncement of a state of emergency in this sector has been able to improve the lot of all stakeholders, and of course you and I. How much do you buy the commodities in the market today? I wonder. At least we can tell authoritatively that tomatoes are coming back to close to where they used to be at this point in time, but still very expensive. And that's talking about food crops. What about those cash crops that Nigerians are not really paying attention to? Maybe the government is also doing not doing enough, better put, to ensure that our cash crops are really given adequate attention. I can't wait to continue to talk with Daniel now. Ben, so for all the things that the present administration has been pushing out to really ensure that the agricultural sector in the country is well taken care of. I don't know what it is like in River States there. Are you seeing anything different? Some improvement perhaps?
There's nothing immediate. There is nothing immediate at all. In fact, in River State, past government has set the ball rolling for agriculture. We used to have the Shongai farm in the Ogoni areas. We also used to have the banana farms right in the Ogoni areas as well. The fish farms in Buguma, and that's also in Elakaya axis as well. But as I speak to you, we don't have the Shanghai farms anymore. We don't have the banana farm anymore. We don't have the fish farms in Elakaya, and of course, that's Buguma as well. And then, the government of this day also, suffice me to say it and spread. I mean, what Joseph Udeme was saying about is more of subsistence farming. Yesterday, I had a guest who talked about it, subsistence farming. Those small-scale farmers will not sustain the food of Nigeria. They can't. It will go on a mechanized farming. Government to look seriously at mechanized farming. Udeme was talking about technology. We need it. We need the modern farm implements. We need the modern farm machines. We need the acres of land. It's not about fertilizer, giving fertilizer to people that will just feed a few in the community. We're looking at the whole populace of Nigeria. River State government, as far as I'm concerned right now, have not done anything that has to do with that. Now, the former government of River State had looked at infrastructure. 12 flyovers, yes, fine. And then, this government is looking at consolidation of what the former government has done. And so, if the former government did not give ear to agriculture, and if this government is consolidating, I doubt if this government will give ear to agriculture as well. That's what is happening in River State.
You know, it just goes on all around. I was having a discussion with a friend a couple of weeks ago on what it was like while we were in the secondary school, where you had a portion of land to yourself to cultivate something. And so as children, we're very excited to see whatever we planted sprouting, then growing to full maturity, then harvesting was like a party. And talking about my secondary school then, CNS College, Saboke, in Ilorin, Kwara State, we had a massive land for farming. And we, regardless of what class you were encouraged to do things like that. So while the government is putting palliatives in place to ensure that those that in the agricultural sector are also taken care of, especially during this fuel subsidy removal, what about the general, the root of the matter? We know that there's been some sort of insecurity in the northern part of the country, which mostly provides the foods, crops that we rely on in the country. But before now, the Southwest also grew what we ate. The South, I want to believe, grew what you ate. But now it was like most Nigerians had depended on the northern part of the country to be the food basket, while many of us had gone to sleep hoping that there will be food from the village. One scenario, we pay more, we get the best, and we're fine, until when we found ourselves here. So maybe the big question should be, aside the mechanized farming, which federal government is paying attention to, is there a new orientation that will really introduce the young one, the children, the youth, and so on, opportunities that are inherent in farming, in agriculture? I just wonder.
The last thought to say it. I went to primary school and a secondary school, just school farms. I went to township school, 3 months, Rodier and Port Harcourt. And I went to Quaker Grammar School. We had school farm. I remember my agricultural master, Mr. Allen Amakri. We have school farms. Everybody he teaches agricultural science as well. So for everything we do in the classroom, we go back to do it practically in the farm. We know the diameters, we know the centimeters of where you plant, we know the shallow crops, we know the deep-rooted crops and everything.
Okay, Ben, I really was enjoying that conversation. We're all speaking from the minds this morning. What's your earliest introduction to agriculture like as a child or as a young adult or even now? Discuss with us. Maybe stories like this, as short as possible, can really help people really see the need for all of us to go into one farming or the other. That may help us on the long run, but in the short run, what can we do? You're still watching News Hub. We lost touch with our guest, Daniel. We try to reconnect with him as we continue on the conversation in just a moment. Please stay with us.
Search to one and use your
people.
Remember
Nelson Mandela. Ask yourself to
the sector, and the fact that the federal government in July declared a state of emergency in the sector to see how it could be supported to now improve the food security in the country. And we'll be speaking with Daniel Udeme Joseph, who is a practicing farmer and project management professional. Daniel, we're so excited to reconnect with you. We apologize for the glitch. Thank you so much for staying with us on the program today. So far, so good. You mentioned the fact that some of the policies being churned out by the present administration, fair enough, good enough, but it seems as if to say there are pinpoint issues that you like as a farmer for the government to do. Share with us those things you feel are not covered under the present policy has been churned out by the administration.
Okay, thank you. Let me start with going back to the conversation that was going on in the studio, more like a debate between smallholder farming, subsistence farming versus the mechanized farming. Let me just share a bit of light on that before I answer your question, Ma. There is no debate about the importance of mechanized farming and its potential to drive the economy. However, our situation is such that the population, and like I said earlier, 70% are smallholder farmers. And so, in my opinion, if you do a policy that isn't favoring the majority that will produce and is skewed towards mechanization, because which answers your question partly, this policy is skewed towards mechanization. It's okay, it's going to drive. So for instance, we import over ₦1 trillion of wheat. So if you have 500,000 hectares and you are planting wheat, for instance, that drops our export, that crashes the dollar and all of that. So that it's on its own, it is benefit. And so we'll have more money, to share and all of the economics around that. I'm not an economist. However, if you drive agriculture through subsistence farmers, the population will do better. There will be better employment. There will be more food for us to eat. There will still be that same export. So we are not even negating the export, but we are saying we first at home needs to benefit. And to do that, we need the people. And incidentally, we have a very similar agricultural system in India.
So I know that you would like to really continue with that conversation this morning. We try the best that we can also. Ben, so Daniel pushing through the fact that he's very happy that administration is pushing through with mechanized farming, supporting it through and through, but there are other things that the administration should also pay attention to if it really wants to see the desired results.
Like I was telling you, you mentioned a point when you said your